everybody. This is Michael Sweet of the band Stryper, and you're listening to Wildman and Steve.
You are about to listen to the intersection of faith, talk, and music. The Wildman and Steve show starts right now.
Isn't it amazing every time I hit record, both of us smile?
I tell you what, it is. It's like we know somebody's going to be watching this.
Of course they are. You know, as you told me before, Steve, we have tens of people watching right now.
You know, it's true. In fact, we may be up into the 20s.
20s, exactly.
20s.
We are the talk of the block. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you once again. This is Wildman and Steve, and I guess you could call this a show. It's the Wildman and Steve show. What we do is, at the Wildman and Steve show, we talk, and we talk about our faith, and we also talk about our music. Those are the three areas that we love the most, is talk, faith, and music. And so today, we are going to be reviewing an album. We are going to give you our expert opinion on an album, and I'm sure that people are on the edge of their seat because we're kind of like the funnel, you know. We make people's decisions about what they're going to buy.
And you know what? I'm sure they've been wanting to know our opinions, especially about this classic from the Oak Ridge Boys, the Y'all Come Back Saloon, which obviously is a classic album.
Right, yeah.
But wait a minute, we're not reviewing country music.
Yeah, you know, folks, when you got a Latin teacher with you, sometimes, you know, he needs to be refocused, you know.
This is true. Although, if we ever wanted to review the Oak Ridge Boys, I would be more than up for that. I do love music.
Very good. Well, hey, let's do that. Yeah, but we'll have to do our version of Elvira if we did it.
Papa, mau, mau.
No, folks, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you because we are reviewing Strypers' latest album that just came out early September, Even the Devil Believes. So first thought, Steve, what was your first reaction to this album?
Unbelievable, and for once, something that actually lived up to the hype. You know, every band, every album, every product that comes out is always the best ever, right? And
of course,
we use that. We live in a world of hyperbole, and for once, it just unbelievable. I've listened to it just almost nonstop, and since then, and from the lyrics, the music, and truly the production. And I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point, something I know Michael Sweet's very proud of. And I confess I don't always think about production. But this time I've caught myself numerous times thinking, wow, this is just insanely sharp. Just every piece that I can hear, it's just mixed just right. So it's just off the charts for me.
Right. Yeah. And I would agree with that. I would also add that I appreciated it because what I was looking forward to when we interviewed Michael Sweet, when he said this album could have just easily come out in 1986. I'm like, okay, well, hey, now you're dialing my number. Yeah. That's what I want to hear. And it could. It was.
There's some tracks that clearly would have been at home.
And I find it interesting that, and we can get into this a little bit later, but one of my first thoughts was, and I didn't even think about this till this last week, and comparing it to Goddamn Evil, that I didn't hear a track on this album where you got the sense they were attempting to connect with a younger crowd. Not that that's a bad thing, but like, for example, the opening track of Goddamn Evil.
Take it to the cross, right?
Yeah, take it to the cross. Yeah, you know, they put in the growling vocals and all of that. It was a great track. I mean, they were able to take two worlds and just put amazingness together. But I did not sense that in this album. Did you at all?
No. This this was an album that clearly they enjoyed making. It was, in fact, Michael just did an interview for a guy that we're all getting to know. He does the Iridium rock music and movie reviews. And one of the things he was saying on that was when they did the covering, it really took them back to their roots. And as they were listening to and deciding on the songs and obviously recording the songs of the bands and the sounds that really influenced them, that really took them back to what formed them musically. And so these latter albums have kind of had that feel, and this one more so than any of the others. This was what they loved. It's what we love. It's 21st century sound, no question about it in terms of quality, and again in production. But in terms of just the musical structure and some of the lyrics, it screams 80s. Not in a nostalgia way, but it's like, look, dude, this is who we are. This is who our fans are, and this is what we're going to make.
Right. Yeah. They definitely weren't trying to go beyond or to appease anybody. I didn't get the sense that they're trying to appease anybody. They're just doing what they love to do and letting it rip. Yep. And I remember when No More Hell to Pay was coming out. And I remember when Michael Sweet sent out a video and he said, hey guys, we're coming back, but this one's going to be back to the high octane vocals, what you love about Stryper. And they did with No More Hell to Pay. But I remember, and I don't know if Michael, maybe you can tell me, Steve, if Michael said this specifically about this album, but I know with No More Hell to Pay that he did say that some of the songs, there were some tracks on No More Hell to Pay that they actually wrote in the 80s that never made the cut.
Yes.
Now, did he say that about this one?
He did, and I'm trying to remember which one specifically. There's one in particular that was a leftover.
Okay,
but I can't. I'm not recalling which one right now.
So that says that there's something about them as artists that even though they're having tremendous production, tremendous writing, that they are reaching back to their roots. And I've heard Michael say it before, you got to give your fans what they love. And what they love about Stryper is that era when they were really big,
Oh, absolutely right. And we can get into this or another time, or if you just want to go out in the parking lot of Wildman and Steve Enterprises, we can just have a fist fight over the four newest albums, right? No More Hell to Pay, Fallen, Goddamn Evil, and Even the Devil Believes. And I think there was a little survey poll, one of those things, one of the fan groups here recently.
Right.
And everybody loves that stuff, right? Everybody loves ranking them and why do I put this one at number one and why did you put it at number four, and all that kind of stuff. But for me, No More Hell to Pay is one of the finest albums of all time, period. Just musically, track after track after track, and the album art combined, it's a total package. I just absolutely love it. This is right in there with that. We'll talk a little bit later where we each think this one falls in the overall Stryper catalog and our overall music catalog, but those two are just out of the park for me.
Yeah. And so, folks, what Steve just did, Mr. Segway just struck again because, as we do album reviews, now so far you and I have not had much of this going on as far as you see something one way, I see it another. But, that could start the more that we go down this road. And I'm sensing we might have a little bit of disagreement through this one. But, I understand people out there in the world today don't understand that there are appropriate ways to disagree. And if we disagree, that does not mean it's the end of Wildman and Steve. And that does not mean I'm getting political. Although Steve and I are going to do a debate on Tuesday night. If you want to tune in, it'll be Wildman versus Steve debate. We got to find somebody to be the moderator. Who could moderate us? That'd be fun. Find a moderator.
Eddie Trunk.
Yeah. There you go. Eddie Trunk will do a great job. He does a good job moderating. Yeah. So anyway, let's get to this. All right. So Steve, if you had to pick a favorite track off Even the Devil Believes, what is your pick?
Okay. So for once in our lives, we actually did a little prep. And what the fans probably don't realize is all the wonderfulness that is Wildman and Steve is really 99.9% extemporaneous. It's just it's just us being us. But we actually give a little thought to this. So I'm actually looking. I'm going to look at my notes here. Boy, that was tough. And I can't just give you the one right off the bat. I've got to work my way into the one.
Right.
One that was definitely in contention for me was Invitation Only. I absolutely love the 80s pop sound that's in that. It's certainly hard, but there's definitely a pop vibe in there, and I love it, man. That could have totally been in the 80s. Digging it. Middle Finger to Messiah, again, just for me, that one has speed and intensity. I love the speed, I love the intensity, I love the in-your-face lyric. Totally there. The one that almost got number one for me, and I really was debating back and forth, and when I first listened to the album first time through, it was number one for me for several days, was This I Pray. I absolutely love, which of course is the acoustic ballad of the album. But it is it's got that, and again, as you think about the great 80s stuff, I'm thinking Bon Jovi, I'm thinking Poison, but this is the guys in the cowboy hats, the cowboy boots, the long hair, the acoustic guitar, right? There's maybe a little Western theme in the video, and it's just
a lighter down front.
Oh, absolutely. Totally dig it. It's just, and again, the lyric, it's all there for me. Yeah. But my number one is Forgotten Rock and Roll. It is absolutely number one for me because of, and if you can see my notes, I wrote the word attitude in all caps, exclamation marks. It is just pure attitude. It's just in your face. Yeah. It's an anthem. It's just one of those arena rock anthems, and I can just see us screaming this one out all the way through, and for me it's that one.
Wow. Well,
what about you, sir?
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, before I disclose the answer to the question, I want to make it clear that even though we did prep in the sense of we shared the questions
right
from the start of the show, we did not share with each other what our answers were.
No.
So, favorite track on the album. Now, what I always look at is, and I guess this is normal, this is what everybody I think looks at, in a sense, is what track makes me turn the volume up, what track makes me pump.
Exactly. No, that's it. That's it. And that's why it ultimately was.
So, I'm going to do the same thing you did lead up to it. So, Do Unto Others, the video and the song just has a great melody, great sound, great guitar solo, and just has that chorus that just is just that memorable chorus that you can just sing around everywhere. It's just that anybody can sing it type of a thing, sing it while you're driving in the car.
True story. We're getting ready to leave yesterday, the house. We've gotten cleaned up, getting ready to head out. And just those last minute things you're doing before you get ready to leave, I was singing it.
Yeah.
You're puttering around, you're tying my shoelace and getting ready to go out the door. Ultimately singable. Yeah.
And that could be the anthem that they play before you and I debate. But but no. So, I mean, the message, of course, was good. So that's one of them. That's a song that I loved. Gotta go with you on this, I pray, as well. That ballad, I am an 80s sucker for ballads. I mean, you can find in the Wildman playlist many times that I'm driving and I'll just say, hey, Siri, play the 80s hair metal ballads, and just one after the other. So I love the sound of this, I pray, as well. I hate this. Here I was thinking you and I were going to disagree on something, right? Forgotten Rock and Roll is my number one.
Dude!
And here's the reason for me is because it has that muted, distorted AC/DC style rhythm guitar that's just so fist pumping the whole thing. So yeah, that's my number one, Forgotten Rock and Roll. So Stryper, Michael Sweet, everybody, want to let you know that Wildman and Steve concur on the first question that Forgotten Rock and Roll is the number one track on the album.
There's no question. No question.
So, along with that, the album isn't just about the music, although we love it, but it's always about the message. We always like to talk about the message here at Wildman and Steve. What positive message? So, not just the one song with the best lyrics, but what was your favorite lyric or your favorite lyric line?
So, this is one where I think you and I agree that Michael Sweet is wrong. So when he did the guys did the listening party, and I don't. Did you do one of the listening parties?
I did not get a chance to. I wanted to, but I didn't get a chance to, and it wasn't in the Wildman and Steve budget to do so. So I had to.
Yeah. Well, my family didn't eat for a week, but
I know you took up a collection for your $7.77.
But $7.77.
I only got seven raised, so I couldn't.
It was the best $7.77 I've ever spent. It was a fabulous listening party. They even added some more. I think they'd scheduled 4 initially, and they added some additional ones because they were just so popular and so well attended. But I raised a question in that, and the moderator, Dave Rose, who's worked with them and been an agent for Michael and his solo stuff before, he was moderating the questions. And so he actually asked my question that I had put in, and which was about the lyric content. The lyric content is just deeper, flat out, than anything I think we have seen in recent years. Michael disagreed with that. He didn't think so. He thought the lyric content was as deep as before. And I'm not saying that the lyrics have been shallow before. It's not so much that, it's a difference between depth and depth, but the lyrics to me were so strong. They were scriptural. They were in your face. And just throughout, there were so many tracks that did that for me. And so that's one of the reasons why I love this album, is just lyrically. And I agree with you. You look at the Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word, right? And the Word was with God. And I had a choir teacher one time who always would bring that up as a way to get the choir students to enunciate, right? He says, because in the beginning was the Word, right? And that's true. So if you're going to have a song, the lyric has got to be great. Again, kind of working backwards, I absolutely love the lyric of "Let him in." It's evangelism to the core. I'm totally. In fact, I sent this to. In fact, I think it's the day the album came out. I quickly cut the lyric and I sent it to Mark Middleberg, and I said, "Listen, you and Lee Strobel have got to use this at your events." I said, "Seriously, this is the lyric for you guys." Yes, if you believe in him, a new life begins. You will be born again. Wow, that's just scriptural, so solid. Believe he died for you and rose again in truth. Now there's only one thing left to do. Let him in. And I'm going, oh my goodness, that is just such a solid evangelistic lyric. You believe it, right? You've got the head knowledge. You're there. You give it intellectual assent, right? Now there's one thing left, buddy. Let him in. Open up the doors of your heart. And so I just absolutely love it. There's a line in Middle Finger Messiah that absolutely does it for me. Paid a ransom only God could afford. I just love that. I'm very, very high Christology. If we can start throwing around the big words there, obviously believing, Jesus is God. All three members of the Trinity are God, and yet there is only one God. And when you say something like this, you realize our sin was so great that the ransom to buy us back from the devil, which there's a great poem by John Donne, one of my all-time favorites, which is "Batter my heart, three-personed God. Yeah. For you as yet, but not breathe, shine, and seek to mend." And it goes on from there. And he has the line, he says, like a man who has to buy back his stolen goods, right? Satan has stolen us, right, through sin. Yeah. And there's a ransom to be paid, and we can't possibly pay it. The cost is so high. It's a ransom only God could afford, paid through God the Son, Jesus Christ. So I just absolutely love that. But I got to go, honestly, with the opening track. Blood from above. Yeah. So he's a holy human sacrifice. That line alone is so metal. Okay. He's a holy human sacrifice. That is such a metal lyric. Nailed upon a cross, a righteous murder scene of love. Oh my, you could, all right, Pastor, preach a sermon just on that lyric alone. A righteous murder scene of love. It was murder. You and I murdered Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. It's a Roman soldier who nailed his hands on the cross, right? It was a Roman soldier that plunged the spear in his side. But you and I, we've all murdered him. It was our sin that brought about his death, but it was a righteous murder scene of love, flowing down grace in the blood from above. Oh, there it is. There it is. So that's my number one lyric, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. I would agree with you as far as the idea of it being deep, but I'm not sure that it was deeper. And so I may fall along with Michael. I'm not certain on that yet. I have to think through that process, but I will say this. If anyone challenges ever again that Michael's faith isn't in his music, I don't know what to tell them, because everything the guy has written from the beginning, he never really took a break from. Even when you go back to Against the Law, Stryper, and they were known that they're leaving their faith, and there were trying times. He tells us in his book there were trying times. Even then, you still had solid positive lyrics. But lately, I would just say, let's go back to the beginning of his solo career. in his solo career, let's just say in just in the 2000s alone, for 20 years, his solo career, his Stryper stuff, his Sweet and Lynch stuff, all of it is the message is clear what he's trying to get across. It's not like he's trying to be vanilla at all in any cases just because he wants to win listeners.
Well, and one of the metal rags, and I use that term appropriately, but I don't remember if it was Blabbermouth or for one of the other ones, I forget. But right around the time it came out, and Michael got kind of upset on social media about it. Somebody had written that they basically liked the album, mm-hmm. and then proceeded to absolutely trash the album.
Yeah,
because the lyric was all about Jesus all the time, and they were bashing that. And my response to that was, that is absolutely ludicrous, because most bands have a fairly narrow range of stuff that they're going to write about.
Right.
All right. Honestly. And I posted back on Twitter about it at the time. I said, if you look at the band Sabaton, the only thing they write about is historical events, and mostly wars.
Yeah.
Nobody bashes them for that. Nobody bashes Whitesnake because David Coverdale can't write a song without using the word love in it. Okay. Nobody bashes him for that. That's what you expect. So I agree with you. Anybody who were to come up and question Michael's faith or whatever, it's like, dude, seriously, what do you expect? This is what the guy has written now, honestly, for 30, 35 years.
Yeah.
And it's explicit.
Yeah.
It's utterly explicit. In the old days, I think the first couple of albums, they actually put the scriptural reference in the liner notes to where the lyrics came from.
Yep.
They don't do that anymore, but
well, you and I wouldn't be able to read that now anyway at our age.
No, the little cassette tape. You're like, but seriously, you could look these lyrics up easy. Go on Bible Gateway and just do a quick search on a couple key phrases, and you're going to find the scriptural references behind these. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah. I mean, you are going to find other bands that, I don't know if deep is the right word, but you're going to find other bands that are more explicit and clear in their theology and what they're saying. As far as like, take for instance, you have Petra, who did for several years, their theme was spiritual warfare, and Bob Hartman had a tremendous ability to just take scripture and turn it into a lyric. And you see that throughout. Now, Michael does the same thing. It's not as explicit, so it's more of a Michael gives more of the general idea than he gets into the specifics. But I will say this: my favorite lyric line, I went ahead with a line for this album.
Oh, okay.
And it's from Even the Devil Believes, the title track. Just this line alone, because I remember when we were interviewing him, mm-hmm. and then even before we interviewed him, I remember him tweeting out that this is a horrible time for many people. We have COVID going on. We have the riots. There's so much division. And he said Stryper has always stood strong and sent a message during difficult times. And this is going to be the same thing we do now. So he says this: we see the prophecies, but that won't bring us to our knees. And I am just looking at that and I'm thinking, what a profound statement. With everything that is going on in our world right now, we see the prophecies, but that won't bring us to our knees. In other words, in my mind, I take that to mean, what's it going to take?
Right.
What's it going to take to start calling out to God? And very similar. I would compare that to his opening track on One Sided War with Bizarre. That as Christians, we stand back. We don't say a word. We don't, so it's very similar. But with this one, he's tying it into the idea that even the devil believes. And and you always need to, it's always up for interpretation, because when someone writes a song, I don't think everybody gets exactly every time what the writer and what his intent was. But I would say in the context of even the devil believes, and you follow the lyrics, that the main theme is, hey, even the devil believes. He believes in God. So believing in God isn't enough. And look at us as professing believers. We have these prophecies that are right in our face, clear that we need to get right with God, but yet what do? We're not seeing much done about it. So,
and one of these days we're going to have to get Mark Middleberg on the show, because it seems like we talk about him an awful lot. He's a mutual friend, and I know I was having a conversation. I shared this with you. I was having a conversation with Mark shortly. How was it before or after we interviewed Michael? But he was talking about that, and obviously, the verse, coming out of James, even the devil believes, right? Even the demons are, they tremble. Okay, you say you've got faith, all right? Well, big deal, right?
Yeah.
Show me. How are you living your life? That's the key thing, and that's why the other line in that song I love so much is, piety can lead you to believe, right? So if it's just about piety, if it's just about going through the motions, dude, even the devil does that. Okay, even the devil believes that. That doesn't mean squat. So
yeah. So I just can't. I can't. I guess I would also say the thing that I love about Michael's writing the most, and lately, how often is a guy writing a song anymore? I mean, he's always in the studio writing, whether it's for his solo album for Strypers, whatever, or producing Mariah Formica or whoever. I mean, he's constantly writing, and I find it amazing when he like walks us through the process. He's like, "Hey guys, next week I'm going to be writing the album." Really, you're going to sit down in a week and write this album, and he does.
Yeah.
And there's always similarities, but you never get the idea that he's just like throwing something out there and it's the same sound as the last album. He's always trying to be creative with every album and with every song. And I don't, he doesn't get the respect he deserves as a guitarist, as we've talked about before, and he's talked about it. I don't think he gets the respect he deserves as a writer, because he really can write some incredible stuff, and he's done that lately.
Oh, I agree. And we could do a whole thing again on just the creativity alone. And I certainly think you see that. I think you see that a lot in the solo stuff. I think you see it. I really think you see it in 10, his most recent solo album, and One Sided War. I think you see it incredibly in the Sweet and Lynch, especially the second album. I know everybody likes the first Sweet and Lynch album. I think I actually like the second Sweet and Lynch album better. And again, topic for another time. But there's a song on there, "Walk," which is this Queen-esque. But then I heard Red Hot Chili Peppers in it. I heard a lot of different stuff, and it was just massively creative.
It was. That's my favorite off there as well. That was amazing.
So I agree. I think musically, I think lyrically, there's different. And again, there's subtle, or I don't know if subtle is quite the right word, but things that are, again, like this, I Pray. There's stuff that's a little bit quieter, a little bit more reflective, more devotional. And then there's the in-your-face anthems. So you've got the gamut there. You can do it. He and then the band can bring it all up.
Yeah, they can. And they cover the whole gamut with one album. And they keep doing it, and they keep going strong. I think it's amazing.
To sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. And if I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. Forgive me, Lord, for I have sinned. Have mercy on the shape I'm in. If I've fallen from your grace, help me, Lord, to find my place. I'm in a storm with no way out. The water's rough, I'm tossed about. I know that there's blue skies above.
So your favorite, we got to go here because this is what we love about 80s music. Your favorite guitar solo?
So I almost texted you back when you had after you sent that question to say that was incredibly unfair. What are you going to do? Pick your favorite child? We're both dads, and that's just, come on, really. How are you going to do that?
Or choose Wildman or Steve. I mean, come on, nobody can. I mean,
right. It's such an easy choice. But anyhow,
I'm sending the poll out right now.
I went through every song. I listened to every song and listened through every solo. Loved them all, and I ended up with "Do Unto Others."
Yeah.
Ended up with "Do Unto Others," and the thing is, I don't know that I could defend why. Most, if not all of them, had me moving into air guitar.
Oh yeah.
So, there was something, I don't know. And again, I don't know that I can define it, but there was something about "Do Unto Others" that really had me. I was listening to, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but again, I was back to my favorite song, "A Forgotten Rock and Roll." There was a part of the solo there that just really knocked me out as I was listening to that again. I thought, maybe I should change my answer, but I'm going to stick with "Do Unto Others." I'm really interested in this question from a guitarist perspective.
Well,
so you hear it with different ears.
Yeah, it's difficult because it's the same as what you said. I mean, Stryper falls in the same category of the era of the 80s where every song has one and every song has a great one. And you can always tell the trade-off. Michael does his part, Oz does his part, then they do the part together, which is incredible. And I remember somebody saying a long time ago that if you're going to look for the best dueling guitarists out there, it's got to be Oz and Michael. There's no question. But, man, all the guitar solos are incredible. The "Do Unto Others" solo I find amazing. "Forgotten Rock and Roll" also made the title track, even "The Devil Believes." I mean, I just love it when it gets to that part, and they do the trade-off and they do the harmony, and Stryper's harmonized guitars are amazing. But I'm going to throw a curve, I think, at you and at the fans and probably at all the guitarists that are out there. Because I love to shred the best I can. I like to play, and everybody wants to do it. And Michael and Oz do it. But remember that Michael has always pointed out that he's never wanted to be a shredder. He's never shredded, and he never wanted to be one. Never wanted to be known as a shredder. He always wanted to have solos that had feeling. And so it wasn't just about speed. It was about getting across an emotion, getting across a message. So I got to go with "This I Pray." The "This I Pray" harmonized guitar solo, that slow building into the song and then taking the break later, playing it again. And the other thing too, as a guitarist, even a solo like that isn't a shredding solo or isn't one that you will listen to and say, man, that's really has incredible speed. But I don't think the common person realizes how much effort and work goes into getting those harmonies to match up when you're doing dual guitars. Because you got the root, third, and the fifth of the scale you're trying to follow, and you have, one guitarist doing the root, the other one doing the third, the other one doing the fifth. Well, usually it's the fifth, and they're playing the harmony, and that takes a lot of work. And I remember Michael talking about how years ago that him and Oz would just spend hours in the 80s coming up with the harmony for the solo, because it's one thing to write a solo, but then it's another thing to match the harmony. And then it's another thing for both guitarists to have the right timing so it sounds So they come in at the exact same time. So there's a lot of effort and work into all of it, but especially the This I Pray solo, the intro and the solo, when they come into that, there's just this strong guitarist feeling that just strikes a chord in me. It's just like that's where it's at. You know, something that you're playing with feeling. You're not trying to show off. You're not trying to be the fastest, but there's just something special behind it.
Well, and yeah, I think that's a great thing you just said. You talk about the feeling of that song.
Yeah,
is, and again, it makes it the standout track. It was also almost my number one track for the whole album.
All right, folks. So far, Steve, have we disagreed?
Not many substantive way.
No. Hasn't been any head-on. I mean, we didn't get the exact answers every time, but pretty close. We may be getting there, though. Let's see.
Maybe.
So now, rank among Strypers' entire catalog. And this could go all the way back to the Rocks Regime demos.
I think you have to.
That's the catalog, right? All the way back, which was 84?
Right.
84, right.
Yeah, we released here in the 2000s, but right, the actual music.
That was when they recorded it, yeah. But the sound of that was from 84, which led into the Yellow and Black Attack, which was the beginning of all of this.
Right.
So there you go, Steve. Rank it amongst Strypers' number one, Strypers' entire catalog.
Number one. It's number one.
Really?
Number one. Yep. And our buddy Lee, and I'm sorry, Lee, I'm forgetting your last name. The fellow that does the Iridium music reviews.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
And he did a ranking of Stryper albums a little while back. Mm-hmm. And he had some kind of a system, and he actually had it numerically scored. And I don't know what his system was, but one of the things he made a comment on, he didn't want to give undue weight to the, say, Soldiers Under Command, To Hell with the Devil.
Right.
Simply because of nostalgia.
Okay.
And I think all of us have got to be real careful with that. Long-time listeners to any group. You think about the album that first made you love the band. Mm-hmm. That's always going to hold a place in your heart and in your memory, your life. And certainly for me, that's going to be Soldiers Under Command. That was my first Stryper. Then I got Yellow and Black, and then To Hell with the Devil.
Right.
So Soldiers is always going to have a special place in my heart. And I really thought about that, especially thought about Soldiers, and I thought about To Hell with the Devil. And I thought about, again, No More Hell to Pay, which I just think is just a sterling album. But here's why I came up with this one. Three things: the music, mm-hmm. the lyrics, mm-hmm. and the production.
Mm. Oh, mm-hmm.
I brought that into it. And for me, I take all kinds of things into consideration. And again, it's one of the reasons that No More Hell to Pay is such a good album for me. The lyrics, the music, and the album art. And I know that may seem a bit trivial or secondary. Stryper, they've made comments about it. In fact, they made a comment about it on the liner notes to Hell with the Devil. And they made a comment about it again with Reborn, that they always try to do something graphically very distinctive, something that communicates a message in their album art. So I take that into the package as well. But honestly, lyric, music, and production of this album just blows everything else away. Yeah. Yes, I will always surrender from the early days. I love it, To Hell with the Devil, all of that. But this album, man, it just fires on all cylinders. And production values, obviously, production capability in 84, 85, 86, just wasn't what it is today. That's why they did the re-record with Second Coming, because they recognized that.
Right.
It's second to none.
Well, you've heard it, folks. Today on the Wildman and Steve show declares that Even the Devil Believes is the #1 Stryper album. I would agree that in everything you said, as far as the production and as far as the whole package with this album, the message, the song, the guitar work, I mean, everything is amazing as normal because that's what Stryper does, and they've especially done that here with their second run, so to speak, if you want to.
Right.
Once they start with No More Hell to Pay. So I have a different opinion.
Okay. Dead last. You're going to say it's dead last. The absolute worst album they've ever produced.
See, that's what's so hard, because I was trying to rank the entire catalog, and you don't want to put anything in the last spot because you're basically saying it's the worst, but there really isn't a worst. You know what I mean? There isn't a bad, in my mind, there's not a bad album. But I put this one at, I got to make sure I get this right, actually number 5.
Whoa!
Yes, I put it at number 5. Now we're gonna
okay. Depending on what 1 through 4 are, you may have your wish. We may come to blows.
Yes, we just might. We might.
I got to know what 1 through 4
A lot
are.
of people out there might disagree with me, and that's fine. I get that. You know, I don't always have the most common way to approach things like this, and I come up with the most unique things. Like if you were to ask me what my favorite movies were, I mean, nobody would be able to predict probably. So and it took me a long time to get that out of my mouth after you surprised me with that number 1 thing. It's like, okay, now what do I do? So number 4, Reborn. The reason I'm saying it is because, well, there's some personal idea there, because when Reborn came out, that was when, hey, Stryper's back. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I was rushed at, and I know it was a Michael Sweet solo album. They turned it into and they made it into a Stryper album. But there was just something about that album that just was like a revival of Stryper to me.
I agree 100%. I love that album.
And I mean, the tracks on there, like Passion, for example. It's just incredible. So I don't want to take up too much time. Number 3, To Hell with the Devil.
Let me just pause you right there. I want to take you back to something you said earlier about how explicit he is in his lyrics. You go to the song Passion on Reborn, and you've got a lyrics, the chorus line, mind you, the chorus line, which is this anthemic Jesus Christ, I want to serve you.
Yes.
Shut the front door. Okay. It doesn't get any clearer
than that. You're right. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sorry, but yeah. So Passion,
absolutely.
So Reborn's number 4.
Now the reason let me back up. Now the reason I ranked Reborn over this one is because just that there was more of a personal connection I had with Stryper when I heard Reborn, I guess you would say. So I'll admit that there was, and a lot of these are personal. These are like Wildman's ranks, basically. It's hard for me to step out of the box and look at it objectively in some ways, although I'm trying to.
Well, and again, I think you got to know what your own criteria are going into something like this,
right?
And you got to share that with anybody you're going to have the conversation with, at in the parking lot after the concert, at the Starbucks when you're sitting around with your buddy and you're talking about this kind of stuff. Is this a personal? What is my personal favorite, or is it what do I think is the actual best in terms of the music? Right. You
right. So I guess there was a blend of it with me. It's hard for me to separate those two things because isn't what I feel personal affect how I evaluate the music, So number 3 is To Hell with the Devil.
Okay.
Hell with the Devil was actually my first listen of Stryper. I think I shared with you before, Stryper's controversy. I wasn't allowed to listen to Stryper, so in the Christian bookstore, I'd go in and get the demo tape and listen to it on the headphones. Stay there till they basically kicked me out. And I remember just playing the To Hell with the Devil track over and over again, just that song. But looking back on that album, and there's a lot of interesting things about it, and it does compete with Even the Devil Believes because it was addressing issues at the time. Here recently, I saw on Twitter somebody put out a poll of I think it was 80s Rock did a poll of which one was better, and it was Shout at the Devil by Motley Crue or Stryper, Hell with the Devil. It was like that era. Everybody was talking about the devil, right?
Right.
Stryper was like, okay, boom. We'll talk about the devil too, but we're going to talk about it in a different way. So, and there's such a power to that album. I don't know that could ever be replaced. The power that Stryper gave to that album at the time, what they were doing, the message that was getting out so clear, it was just this huge fist just coming right through with a bam. And I don't know that can be redone,
And again, if you want to say their most powerful album, their most powerful album, the album that had the most punch and message and so forth, from first to last track, I might give that to you. Absolutely.
Yep. So at number 2, Wildman's List, which will be published later on for $99.99. At number 2 is Goddamn Evil. That was a perfect album for me. I did not care for Take It to the Cross, as we talked about at the beginning, because, they were blending the growling vocals and all that, but it grew on me. And there's just something amazing when you hear what a band can do when they stretch out of their norm. And you're like, wow, these guys really have some talent to be able to blend that and do that amazingly. But also the Goddamn Evil track, man, that just the title track. You want to talk about 80s driven style?
No question about it.
Absolutely incredible.
Yep.
Which leads me to my number 1 Stryper album.
I will tell you, I am so nervous about this. I am terrified that this is going to.
Now, this reminds me of you've seen those talk shows before, especially the sports talk shows where they're arguing and debating, and some of them get so upset sometimes they just walk off.
So listen, I've got.
You may just walk off with this. I don't know, because I know I'm in the minority on this one. I know, and I apologize.
Now I really am nervous. All right.
Against the Law.
Okay, I got to be really honest. I was really scared that you were going to say. I thought you were going to say Murder by Pride.
Yeah. That was a decent.
Which curiously enough, on my personal playlist of God Speaking Through Stryper. So I pulled songs. Right. I probably got more songs from that album on that list. But actually, it's probably my least favorite album.
Yeah.
So I was very nervous you were going to say that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I've got no problem with again. Now, Michael Sweet may never let us interview him.
I know. I've heard him. But I love it. I love the sound. I know they were breaking away from the Strypers, the traditional Stryper sound, and that's what Michael has said. And I know they were going through a lot of personal things at the time, but that sound, in my mind, now this is just me talking again. When that came out, I almost wanted to take that album cover and go to some of my friends and go, there, because there were so many that were not appreciating Stryper's sound because they didn't sound like the other guys or whatever else, and they couldn't if they wanted to. And then Stryper's just like, okay, here we go. Boom, there it is. And it was like, whoa. Now, if they would have done that against the law just a few years earlier, that would have just blown the whole rankings off the charts, I believe. Anyway,
well, listen, I love the title track off of that. I think that, again, it's one of those tracks could be interpreted in different ways, but I look at that and I go, dude, as a Christian, right? We're not bound by the law anymore. We're not bound by the Old Testament law. And you get that even, in the New Testament, look, dude, it's not about the different festivals. It's not about the different foods and the dietary laws and so forth. And then for my money, Rock the Hell Out of You.
Yeah.
Should have been in every set they have played since 1991.
Yeah. Now, my favorite track off Against the Law is Two-Time Woman. And it's not, I mean, the message, I get the message. It's more of a, hey, you're not going to do that to me type of a thing. And there's more of an angst to it. But the sound, the guitar sound, the opening cymbals at the beginning, that I have that on my playlist when I'm running. And when I hear that, I just want to run faster, although I don't run fast enough, but when I do. But that was amazing. Now, that's the Wildman list of the top 5 Stryper albums. But I will say I agree 100% with you, Steve, when we talk about the quality and the production and what went into this album of Even the Devil Believes. They did not take a break. They did not take a step back and say, well, we've done so many albums, let's just throw whatever we want out there. You can tell there was tremendous effort put into it, and you can tell because of their experience over the years has built up, and they've built off of each project. This is an amazing album. It may end up being my favorite, but it's just not my favorite right now. And
look, I think there's probably some lifeblood in there with this being the first album to record with Perry Richardson.
Oh yeah.
And that wonderful bass intro to Make Love Great Again. Everybody's talking about that, and you could hear it really well. Again, back to the production value. But the fact that they have so much fun with him, and seeing them perform live with Perry over the last couple of years, it's great to watch people having fun at what they do. And I think they took that into the studio, so that brought that out. I'll say this too. I think we need to revisit this in 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one of the things I will tell my students is listeners of the show know I'm a high school teacher by day, rock and metal enthusiast by night. But one of the things I will tell my students is you cannot make judgments about contemporary events and especially contemporary leaders at the time. And I said, look, even going, I said right now, so right now we're recording this in 2020. I said, you can't even make a definitive statement, say in terms of a president, about how good a president even Jimmy Carter was.
Right.
We're still not far enough out from Jimmy Carter to have anything a definitive statement. Now we've had enough time out from Lincoln. I think we can come around and say something pretty definitive. Right. So you've got to have the long view of history.
Exactly.
And one of the things you realize is I listen to an album just endlessly when it first comes out. Mm-hmm. Almost to the exclusion. I don't want to listen to anything else until I've just gotten saturated with the new album. And then I'll listen to other stuff again and go back and whatever. And then I'll come back to it.
Right.
And then it's interesting for me to see what are my feelings about it. Are they still as fever pitch? Do I really still enjoy this the way I did in the first month or two when I was listening to it nonstop? My hunch is I'm going to still be enjoying this one almost as much as I am now a few years from now.
Sure.
Yeah. But, and again, my opinion may change on that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mine may as well. And I tell you, when I put this one in and I'm driving, I play it. There's never a muscle fiber in my being that says, "Oh, let me skip that track or let me take this off and do something else."
Exactly.
Gentlemen, if you have not got Even the Devil Believes, get it because it will suck you right in. Yeah, you're not going to be able to stop it.
There's a lot of people like to say it's all killer and no filler, right? I mean, there's nothing, like you say, you're not going to skip a track. I will move on to the next one. No, it's all killer, no filler.
So the final question, Steve, that we put out there, I may attempt to change it a bit if you don't mind.
Okay.
On the fly. But instead of, why don't we just, you can tell me what you think about this and you can reword it however you think. But what if it would be, why do we think anybody should invest in this album?
Why do we think anybody should invest in this album?
Yeah. Why? Like if somebody's listening going, okay, I heard all this and I get little bits and pieces, but can you give me a direct statement of why should I get this album?
All right. So it's about time I introduce you to a phrase.
Now you're hearing me.
Okay. Well, there are certain phrases I don't feel comfortable saying, especially with students. And so there is one euphemism.
We're gonna have to censor this out, Steve.
Stop and think about what I'm going to say, and you'll understand exactly what I mean.
Okay.
This album is a not good donkey.
Could you repeat that, please?
It's a not good donkey.
All right.
Another way of saying not good is bad. And another way of saying donkey. You want to get this album because it is simply just lyrically, musically, it's a punch in the face. Right. I think you want to get it. I think if you are a Christian, get it because it will confirm aspects of your faith. It will make you bolder in going out. I think in even sharing the gospel. I think it just like some of the songs that will charge you up while you're running. I think if you were to listen to this before you go out to whether it's to serve in your local soup kitchen or whatever ministry you're involved in, or before you go to work, maybe you've been praying about somebody and you're saying, hey, I'm looking for this opportunity and how to share Jesus with somebody. If you listen to this album, man, you're going to feel like the Apostle Paul going into work. So I think there's that. I think if you're just a metal enthusiast, who likes the classic sounds of great metal, especially from the decade of the 80s, but you just want more of it. I mean, let's face it, you've listened to all your AC/DC records, you've listened to all your Bon Jovi, you've listened to all your Poison. You're like, I want something new. Then, dude, get this, and crank it to 11. It'll tear you up, man.
Yeah.
So spend your money that way, and spend the money, folks. Again, we've said this before, but by goodness, spend the money. Don't just listen to it off of YouTube.
Right.
Don't just do that. Spend the money, support the artists who make the music, and it's worth whatever $9.99. Good grief, on iTunes. Get the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with that. I agree with what you're saying too, that this is definitely a motivator during a time like this, during 2020, which has just been.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, just this past week alone, you're like, whoa,
Oh.
what is going on? And so yeah, it's been a crazy year for many people. There's a lot of paranoia. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of people who don't understand what's